all that, I'm joined by Professor Sraboni Roy Chaudhary. She's a professor of Japanese studies at the School of International Studies in JNU. Professor Roy Chaudhary, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
As exit polls are saying, and trends are coming in, that the LDP may not get close to the 50 mark. That means they lose majority in the upper house. They are already in minority in the lower house. What are the political implications for Prime Minister Ishiba and his government?
Let me start off by telling you that the Ishiba's government has not been having a favorable run since his election of the lower house. He's always been lagging in his opinion polls. Therefore, this election was supposed to be a test of his strength as far as people's confidence in his party. And this particular government
a kind
is
of de facto referendum. Yeah.
Yeah. Therefore, this particular exit polls across various newspapers and social media agencies is definitely a worrisome thing, not only for Ishiba's prime ministership, but also for this long-standing coalition government of LDP and Koimeto, because it is likely that having minority both in the upper and the lower house, even if they look at a new prime minister, the prime minister might not find a foot in the parliament.
Okay.
In the diet of the Japan.
But a little while back, Prime Minister Ishiba held a press conference where he said that, he plans to stay. And so if he plans to stay, he's already in the minority in the lower house. Now, if he goes into a minority in the upper house, what if the opposition brings a no confidence motion? How will his government survive that?
In fact, with the current, prediction, I do not think Ishiba has a chance of actually being in the as a prime minister until and unless some opposition parties, become, might give him a support from outside. But that seems to be unlikely, considering that in the opposition, though it is not united, and that is the fear that opposition also cannot give stability. But the kind of agenda that the oppositions have put forward during the election, and that to what LDP has put forward during the election, it doesn't look like there would be any opposition party that can support him even from outside.
Okay, but he's made a statement saying, I plan to widen my coalition. I mean, that he's looking...
So the idea would be, see, if you look at the current scenario, you have Senseito, the very right-wing people who have come up with this statement this time, the Japanese first. You have the DPP, who is a contender, who says higher pay wage is important. You have the CDP Nora, which is the second constitutional democratic party, which is the second strongest party. I do not think Noda would be looking at supporting the prime minister from outside. So I do not know what kind of, reach that Ishiba would do with respect to the party, because his party's commitments to the parties which can give outside support doesn't seem to be in conjunction.
Okay. I want to quote something from what he said in his press conference, Prime Minister Ishiba. He said, and I quote, we are engaged to a question. His answer was, we are engaged in an extremely critical tariff negotiations with the United States. We must never ruin these negotiations. Now, say the opposition brings a no confidence motion, which, as the numbers suggest, he wouldn't be able to survive. They topple his government. It goes into a political instability. And later, when a snap election is called, he can go to the people saying that, look, I was here trying to negotiate with the United States on tariffs, 25% tariffs, and they toppled me midway. So his strategy could really be turn the problem around on its head, because in this election, the tariff negotiations was a big thing. It was a big issue. The opposition was accusing him of being weak, not being a good negotiator, not protecting Japanese interests. But he could turn it around on its head and say that, look, these guys toppled me, and that's why, we have political instability and we lost out to the United States.
Excellently put. I do know that politically you have the option and he might go forward with it. But if you look at the current, why people were looking at various aspects of during the election, economy and price was obviously came as 48% as of people's, view with respect to why they were voting for a party. But however, if you look at the economic and price, common man understands US tariff issues, but he's today more concerned about two fundamental critical things. One is the rice price and other is the gas price. In both the places, LDP has not been able to give the assurance, nor have they been able to take care of it before the election. And I do not therefore think that if Ishiba turns it, like Ishiba loses, I do not see Ishiba even getting the nomination from within his party to be the next prime minister.
Okay.
And I've been visiting Japan. I just got back. My, feeling or my essence, sense of what I saw when I talked to various citizens, that they are very concerned about why Ishiba is not seems to be neither domestically engaged nor internationally engaged.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about what happens if his government falls. The opposition, he may be reduced to a minority, but his party still remains the single largest party in both the houses. The opposition, the CDP, the DPP, Sensiato, etc., are way too fragmented. What happens then? Would CDP, for example, want to go to the polls?
Um, my my sense of the whole drama that would get exposed once if this whole thing if the exit polls results is what we see in reality would be that LDP might try to make a comeback by a new prime minister, a prime ministers who would get an outside support from these parties, because what I think the opposition also clearly recognizes is they might be able to topple a government, but they are not united to give a stable leadership. And they fully understand that stable leadership is very, very critical. Japan already seems to be not in a very good place as far as USA Japan relationship goes, though Ishiba has visited, met Trump, etc. But the way the negotiations have been moving, apart from the fact that Ishiba's leadership is being questioned, it is also felt that Japan no longer seems to have the alliance as its cornerstone, how it always was with USA. And therefore, the question of a good, able leader is important. And I think what challenge that LDP will face next is when they lose this thing is if they lose the vote of confidence is to find the right leader. They're in need of a very capable leader who would not only be able to internationally engage, but also engage domestically to take care of issues that are, according to most people, very, very, very easy to sort of take care of, have directed ways of doing it.
Who then, Professor Roy Chaudhary, could be the next leader that the LDP could find from its ranks?
The choice are many, but the problem is that LDP has also done a little bit of restructuring in the sense some of these big groupings within the LDP has been dissolved, etc. So I will not want to name anybody because I do not think I'm in a position to name anybody.
But isn't the agriculture minister in the running? Isn't his image of one who's trying to deliver and get them out of the rice issue?
Yeah, it definitely. That's why I said I'm not willing to name anybody, because while he is definitely now finds a lot of front page attention, but there are other things to take a look at before they think of a sizable, leadership that would be capable to go forward. Okay. Because there's age factor, there is a factor of not only individual popularity, but also within the party, who would be supported. Japan is pretty a conservative society, so age also comes into play.
Okay. Say, let's result. Counting is still going on. We'll only get to know after the results where it goes. But say, assuming they replace the prime minister, the Ishiba has to go, and they put in a new leader. Negotiations, some kind of tariffs Trump is going to impose. We don't know if 25%. He's threatened 25%, but some kind of tariffs he's going to impose. Now, if he imposes tariffs, that hurts the economy even more. So the rising cost of living, etc., on which this election was fought, becomes even more difficult for whoever the LDP chooses as their next leader. What stops the opposition for bringing in a no confidence, saying, well, they sold out to the United States, and this one is also another, just like Ishiba?
See, everyone, across party lines, the whole idea of US tariff definitely consumes them, and they would like to have a position of strength in trying to negotiate with US tariff conditions. It is definitely worrisome for Japan to, how to contest this. But when and if you get a new leadership in place, and if the negotiation does not favor Japan, definitely the blame has to be taken up by the leader.
Whoever the leader is, yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, Japan also believes in a very consensus way of moving. That's why, if the new capable leadership in Japan requires him to have certain kind of, position within the oppositions, if that person can create that position for themselves, even if they fail to negotiate or end up with only 25% tariff, he would be able to foretell what, go forward by taking consensus from the opposition, simply because opposition themselves, if they were united, they would have definitely go for a no confidence and get their leadership. But that seems to be, again, a very slim chance of it happening. So I think
You're seeing a very slim chance of you're seeing a very slim chance of the opposition coming on the same page and bringing a no confidence. Are you saying that?
No confidence likelihood is very high, but they themselves having an united, putting up a united front to find the right leadership, I think is again an issue among them.
Okay.
So whether they bring in a no confidence will be strongly dependent upon what kind of option LDP comes up with when the results are not in their favor.
So would they be amenable then? What would the CDP or the DPP or Sensiato thinking? Would they rather want to go to the polls, or they realize they are also on a very shaky wicket?
Going to the polls could be the very likely option at this point of time for all of them, simply because they would then, there is a thing among even citizens that it was important that they have a clear yes or a no among which set of parties will rule, which is not the current diet. They would probably therefore prefer going back to the polls and clearing the deck and starting afresh. But that, of course, has the biggest disadvantage is the US tariff issue. So that is why I feel coming up with a no confidence as soon as the poll gets over, I don't know how that part seems to be a very tricky and very messy at this point of time.
Okay, yeah, it looks like they're going into political instability.
Strong, big, of instability.
Right. All right, we leave it there. Professor Roy Chaudhary, thank you very much. Appreciate your joining on the show at this late hour. Thank you very much.